Good evening, class. This is Emmanuel Corrales. I am doing this voiceover on Scribe talking about my learning outcomes in this class. So one thing I noticed between my roles as an embedded tutor at the English department as well as working in the nonprofit organization in the education department as well is that it seems that both sides of whether I am in a leadership role or am not, oftentimes you're no matter what you're part of a team, and working as a team, it's important to always make sure that the team itself as well as the leader work together as a team and it's not separate. I don't think it ever should be separate. I think that's one thing I learned from the simulations is that as much as the leader is part of the team, and outside of the team, it's kind of making sure that you work in limbo. And I really appreciated the simulations is because the way it broke it down was you're able to put it into perspective, especially with building a transparent team. And in order to build a transparent team, you need to make in a high performing team, it needs to be transparent. It cannot be contrived. It cannot be controlled. And it needs to be organic. It needs to build organic, natural relationships. And oftentimes, I feel that when you're in a meeting with a leader, or it seems to be these contrived questions that are just kind of fill in the blank. Or as a leader on the other side of the coin, you're often things like, okay, well, how do I build this natural relationship? And then, okay, well, let's explain yourself. Maybe what does that mean? What does it mean to explain yourself? And perhaps it means when you have a vision or when you have an idea for the group or for your department, you walk through your process of how I got there. For example, just kind of the whole definition behind metacognition of how um, you think about what you're thinking, and likewise how that would impact the others. And so this image here that you see when you're kind of walking through a crossword puzzle, or even like almost like a labyrinth, through all these dips and turns and curves, you walk through the students with it or your team itself. And then through that, you start building ideas and you plant that seed. You plant that seed inside of them in means of, okay, well, now that I understand what your ideas are, now that I can appreciate and I've seen these dips and curves and turns that you're these moves really that you're making in the organization, how can I feel that I am part of that? And then it's so important to have a shared idea, shared thoughts and perspectives, so you can understand and acknowledge one another, and through that you build that trust. And that's how you're able to get ideas from each other and learn from each other, because really it's through that process of reflecting and that collaboration that you're able to build ideas of and understanding where the students are at, as well as in a group, especially in a nonprofit, where there's so many things that are changing and building and growing, where what is going to happen next? What's going to happen the next day? And then you ask these questions, and they need to be open-ended questions. They need to be like, oh, you need to elicit that information from them. You need to open. It needs to be open discussion in means of why are you here? What are your goals? What are your values, knowledge, strengths, and weaknesses? And I think as a leader, especially as a mentor, I never really discussed that. I was always wanting to withhold that information of strengths and weaknesses of what I like and what I dislike, and what um, the laddering that the simulation discussed. Um, I always felt that it was important to kind of hide those, not show my weaknesses and only exhibit my strengths. But really, what that really does is it breaks down those borders and it makes open conversation. It makes that transparency, which is so important. I learned that it eventually becomes a shared responsibility. And with that shared responsibility, that's how it becomes this open discussion of truly listening openly, and sharing that responsibility um, with your constituents in order to respond effectively, and vice versa. Because through that openness and authenticity, you truly do build those relationships and that trust within each other. I think the one thing I learned from this class is the emotional intelligence and just being forthright and being direct, but also being open and honest and solution based. And the decisiveness is so important. But at the same time, building that trust and integrity between each other just really shows how relationships can grow with that way, because it's not only just about the one person. It's not about the leader. It's about the camaraderie and the motivation that builds the confidence within the organization, your team, because you can't go anywhere by yourself. You cannot really grow the class. You cannot really grow the organization unless you work together. So decisiveness is truly important at the end of the day, but it's just a shared responsibility between each other making those decisions. But at the same time, making sure that it's a sound decision. Um, One thing that I was thinking about when I was going through this class was how much I've learned through storytelling, and I've always learned through ideas of just the individual, of ideas, and big ideas of what it says there. And I don't know now that that's not really truly how it works. There's a proverb, I think it's an African proverb, that talks about if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. Or also another idea is from my grandparents when they talked about how show me your friends and I'll show you your future. It's so essentially what it's saying is not about the we, it's about building and strengthening each other. Because at the end of the day, an organization is it's not just about that one individual who got the organization there. At the end of the day, it's not just about the teacher. It's you're building leaders for the new world. You're building leaders to become those next leaders. And so that's why it's so very important to maintain that emotional intelligence and build within each other. I think those are the main takeaways I took from this class, as well as many others. But I wanted to do this kind of organically and kind of practice that vulnerability with myself. Thank you guys so much for listening, and have a good night.